Hey guys, welcome back to Classic Reviews, where this time we're going to be looking at a classic of a film, and one that is very personal to me, that being Superman the movie. Superman the movie came out in 1978 and was directed by Richard Donner and stars Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, Marlon Brando, and Gene Hackman, telling the story of the last son of Krypton as he learns and discovers who he is, finding his place in the world, and eventually becoming the superhero known as Superman as he faces off against Lex Luthor to save Metropolis. Guys, I've actually been wanting to talk about this film for quite some time, actually. If you guys remember back to a video I did probably 2 years ago now of a bunch of Blu-rays that I got for Christmas, one of those was my Blu-ray that included the special edition of Superman the movie, as well as the 3-hour extended TV cut. And I've always been wanting to watch that 3-hour cut, and I finally got to for this review. So this review is going to be basically focusing on the special edition of the film, because that is the definitive version that Richard Donner wants to show the world. But I'm also going to discuss a little bit about the 3-hour cut because I find it extremely interesting. But first off, I absolutely love this movie. As a kid, I really enjoyed watching the Superman movies, even 3 and 4. But they were just such fun movies, and in particular, I really loved the first one the most. I just absolutely loved a lot of things that that movie did, and Richard Donner brought so much heart and soul to this film that I think people just kind of forget about sometimes. They forget about how really excellent this film is. And one of the things that I absolutely love about this film has to do with practically the first 40 or so minutes of this film, where Clark Kent has not even become Superman yet, and we're focusing on the destruction of Krypton, Clark discovering who he is, the death of Pa Kent, and how he eventually travels to the Arctic and meets his real father, Jor-El, for the first time, and finally dons the Superman suit. I think that part of the film is often forgotten and looked over by the amazing, amazing stuff with Christopher Reeve and the rest of the movie, but I just fall in love with that first half of the film so much because it feels so human and it's extremely impactful, especially the moment where Pa Kent dies and Clark Kent is over his grave and says, all these powers, I have all these powers, and I couldn't even save him. And I think that's extremely powerful, that even Superman can't save everybody. And I do think that it plays a lot into what we eventually get near the end of the film, with Superman, of course, turning the world backwards to reverse time. And a lot of people have a lot of complaints with that scene, but I think emotionally for the story, it completely works, and I completely buy it. It's a beautiful idea for this film, and I really enjoy it. But yes, I absolutely love the first 40 minutes of this film. I think it is beautifully shot, composited, and the acting is extremely good, especially from that young guy that plays young Clark Kent. I think, honestly, I could see him as Superman as well as Christopher Reeve. I think he just does such a good job of playing this very vulnerable person. But then we get to the real meat of the movie with Clark Kent and Lois Lane, and Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve are absolutely fantastic as Clark Kent, Superman, and Lois Lane, and their chemistry is so good together. I completely believe these people, and they're so believable in their roles. Like, Christopher Reeve will always be Superman. There might be people that come along that do the Superman just really right. I mean, I really like Henry Cavill. I don't think he really has that great material to work with, but I think he's a solid Superman. But for me, Christopher Reeve just embodies that character, that hero, and that presence so wonderfully, and he's so charming in this film that I just absolutely love him. Also, Gene Hackman, I love his hammy, very, very hammy Lex Luthor. I think he's absolutely a blast to watch in this role. He's so over the top and extremely funny too. I like the antics that he gets into, and I think they're just some really great stuff. And also, this film sold people on the idea that you would believe a man could fly. And I think that is still true to this day. The special effects, especially with the flying, I think looks so well. You can't really see any of the wires that Christopher Reeve is using, and you really feel that you are watching somebody fly. Now, there are some moments that are, a little dated. Like, we have some back-screen projections with Superman and Lois Lane as they're flying through the sky, but I still think it's beautifully done. The lighting and John Williams' score is just extremely powerful, and I think one of his absolute best scores to date. It's so wonderful, whimsical, and extremely powerful, especially during the very emotional beats of this story. And I think it's just done so beautifully. And as I said, the ending of this film, I think, is extremely powerful, and people complain about it to death, but I think it absolutely works for the story they're trying to tell. Because Superman, at the very end, when Lois Lane dies, he gets angry. He feels like he could have saved her, and he couldn't. And it's the strength that he finds within him, that he is able to reverse time and save her and bring everybody back and save the day at the same time, I think is extremely powerful. It's a very emotional scene that just gets me and gives me chills every time I see it. I absolutely love this film to death. I think Richard Donner really created just a masterful superhero film, and I completely understand why it is considered one of the greatest superhero films of all time, and it really is for me. It's maybe not my favorite superhero film, but it is up there in the top 10 for sure. I absolutely love this film to death. So that's really my overall thoughts on Superman the movie. Now, I do want to get into and talk about this really amazing 3-hour cut that was released of the film. Now, people might not really know about this, but Superman, when it was finally released on TV, Warner Brothers Television decided to make a 3-hour cut of the film because, well, for one, it would garner them a lot more money with a lot more airtime and a lot more places to add commercials, showcasing a lot of new footage. I mean, the original cut of Superman that was released theatrically was a 2-hour film, along with the special edition, which was 2 hours and 30 minutes, but this was a whole whopping 3 hours and 8 minutes. And I thought this was just something really fun to watch. And it's not better in any way, shape, or form to the original cut of the film or the special edition, but it is still something very interesting to watch, especially if you're a fan of Superman and you want to see more of this movie. There's definitely some parts of it that could definitely have been cut and should have been cut. The pacing is really a big problem of the film. There's scenes that go on for just a bit too long. There's some really cheesy moments that are kind of bad. Like, kind of really bad. There's just these moments where it's just a bit too goofy, and Richard Donner himself has even said that he absolutely hates this 3-hour cut because he basically said that the stuff that they added back in was all the shit that he cut out. And I think that's really funny, but I still think overall that it's something that's worth watching at least once. It really shows the epic scale of this film and is really cool to watch, but I would definitely not recommend this over the special edition director's cut, which I think is truly the definitive version of this film. Guys, I absolutely love Superman the movie. I could talk about it all day. I think it is fantastic with great characters and just great acting in general. These special effects still really hold up to this day. The beautiful score. I love the themes of the story, and I think it's just done so well. It does have some pacing issues still. It is a film that is rather long. Some people might find it a little bit boring, but I'm extremely engaged by this film. Every time I watch it, it just gives me so much hope and happiness, and I love it every time I watch it. I'm gonna give Superman the movie an 8 out of 10. Well, guys, I want to thank you for watching this very special classic review for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. What did you think of Superman the movie? Tell me in the comments section below. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next review.